close the meeting and go into executive session, at the request of Councilman Cascignano, Mr. Deputy Commissioner Zeik, you are invited front and center. The councilman wants you to brief us on.
Yeah, Supervisor, just if I can.
Yeah, why don't you take it from here?
I know one or two residents had questions about the Stillwater property and also the Dolphin Beach Club. And I know Councilman Muscarella was going to make a motion to head to executive session, and frequently that does take significant time. So rather than have the residents wait and not have this information prior, Deputy Commissioner Tim Zeik is here, and I was wondering, Deputy, if you could please speak to both situations.
So this is really a response to prior questions that have been raised?
Yes, and I know the Deputy's done significant work between the last two meetings on both of these subjects. I, unfortunately or fortunately, was away the last few days. I have not gotten my own briefing, and I think it's an appropriate time for us all to get updated.
Of course.
If that pleases the board.
It's fine with me. This is in response to prior questions that have been asked.
Yes, and for current status.
Sure. Mr. Supervisor and Board, just to bring you up to speed as to what's happened with regard to 135 Stillwater Avenue in Massapequa. I had reached out to the property owner. They had met with me personally up in my office, where I informed them that there was a code compliance case and a formal complaint submitted against their property, alleging that they had no COs, some construction and some structures that were built without building permits. I made them aware that they did have these allegations outstanding. They were very cooperative. They are willing to work towards compliance. We went through a whole litany of everything they needed to file for. They need to renew their old building permit for the original house construction back in 2001. They took an additional building permit application for some additional structures and items that were on the property that did not have any permits. They'll be required to get their final building inspections, their final plumbing inspections, and an electrical certificate of approval for all the electrical work that was done on the property as well. I gave them about a 30-day period to get all this information submitted to me, because one of the first items I need is an updated property survey, and that does take some time to get from a land surveyor. So once they obtain a land survey, they were going to contact me and we were going to continue with finishing their permitting process. That's basically the report on 135 Stillwater Avenue, if there are any questions.
Okay.
I don't have questions, but I know the residents.
Well, that'll be reserved to public comment period. You see, this is why you be nice.
The issue is the misappropriation of the municipal funds.
Hold on, Rob, the last time I looked, I still chair the meeting, okay? You finish your statement, Tim?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to do now, Councilman?
At some point, we're going to have to continue to answer questions as they evolve, so I don't know if now is an appropriate time.
I'll leave it up to you. It's your call.
Please,
You want? Okay. You know what? You chair the meeting. You take over, fellas. You and Rob.
Hello, my name is Robert Ripp from Massapequa again. Listen, it's fantastic that you're addressing the code enforcement issues here, but that is not the heart of this issue. The heart of this issue is that somehow the consultant, Frank Antetomaso, Sidney Baum, was able to work through the system the town has and authorize, and you already voted on this resolution, so technically the homeowner could probably be suing you right now to get the money, but he authorized in my opinion, it's a misappropriation of government funds. He authorized a payment of $32,000 to the homeowner based on construction work that, when you review the records, Frank Antetomaso did all the work for this gentleman. He did the plans, he did the sketches, he did everything, not the code enforcement stuff.
Correct, the code enforcement hold, I believe. So no payments for the other project.
You're going to talk about Dolphin now?
Yes.
Next.
Okay, we're set with 135 Stillwater then? With regard to the Dolphin Beach Club, as it's known as 2 Dolphin Drive, myself, Stephen Marks from the supervisor staff, we had met with the Massapequa Shore Civic Association, who owns the property down there. We did meet with them, again, made them aware that there was a code compliance case and a formal complaint made against the property. We went through in detail in terms of what they would need to file for. They were made aware of the fact that there are, again, the allegations with regard to certain items on the property that do require building permits. Again, they appear to be very cooperative. They seem to be working or willing to work towards compliance. And again, they needed some time to put together a property survey, which will take some time. Once they obtain their property survey, they agreed to get back in touch with the Department of Planning and Development and go through with their permits.
Now, they have 30 days to do that, right?
That's correct.
Together survey, and we're still on the same belief that it's 169 owners?
That's correct, according to the county assessor's records.
Okay. So each homeowner owns 1/169th of the property. That hasn't changed. That's back to the original information we found out.
That's correct, as recorded by the deeds in Nassau County.
Okay. So they'll be in touch when they have their survey prepared?
That's correct.
I don't have any questions, but I will probably be fielding questions, so it's...
It's up to you. You're
do you
really,
guys do you have any
in
further?
effect, you're really chairing this.
McKenna, I think, had one question.
Okay.
Just for the public's information, this property happens to be adjacent to Frank Antitommaso's house. What a coincidence. One of the questions that you were looking into was who did the construction work on the seawall and on the property? Do we know that yet?
I think we do. Well,
The seawall construction that was part of the 2 Dolphin Drive, was actually done by the adjacent property owner at 1 Dolphin Drive, and that was part of his permit application that was filed back in 2008.
By chance, was it High-Rise Engineering?
I would have to check the records as to who the contractor was. I don't recall that offhand.
Okay. Just point of reference, if it is High-Rise Engineering, my other question was, is the town still doing work with them, which is a different matter. But High-Rise Engineering, I don't know whether you're aware, is under indictment right now as of August 1st for misappropriation of FEMA funds for this type of work. So just take that for whatever it's worth. Okay? I have the information here.
Do we even, is it high-rise? Do we even know?
Supervisor, I'd have to double check where the contractor was.
we also know, Supervisor, though, I think Mr. Zeik asked a question on the funding for the development. I believe it was discussed.
With regard to the allegation of any type of FEMA funds or any type of monies from the town of Oyster Bay being spent at the property, there were no monies spent from the town of Oyster Bay, nor money or no money allocated from FEMA, to my understanding. We checked with all our various town departments. In terms of the improvements, they were funded solely by the civic association that operates the land. And for any type of tables, chairs, furniture and things like that, that was also paid for directly by the civic association.
At the last meeting, someone said that you were going to check because a lot of the benches and umbrellas and there's a huge TV there. Someone was going to check to see if it in fact was Town of Oyster Bay property that was used there. Has that been done? You said you were going to do that.
Again, the Civic Association made it clear, and they have all paperwork to document it, that they had purchased all that equipment on their own.
Okay. Somebody handed me a document with this high-rise written on it too. Is this yours, Is this yours, sir?
Yeah, you could have it.
No, sorry, I got the name of the company.
Okay.
You want to give this back?
Then the other issue, the other big issue, I think, which was open at the last meeting, is the fact that the property in Nassau County is listed as Town of Oyster Bay property, and it's listed as vacant property. It's my understanding, as we stand here right now, that there are no taxes being paid to Nassau County at all on that property because of the confusion where allegedly the property was deeded to the 169 residents back originally. That might be the case, but it appears that there's no taxes being paid on the property. Can you shed any light on that today?
Again, based on the research I looked at, I believe there might have been a typo or some type of error. I believe there was paperwork that did show that the town of Oyster Bay did own the property, I believe on like the town's website or something along those lines, but I think that might have been an error. Again, if you do pull the physical deeds that are maintained by the county clerk's office, It does show back in the 1950s, 1955, that the property was deeded over to 169 people. And the more recent sales of the properties of the 169 homes do show a rider saying that along with the sale of the principal property, there's a share of 169th share of the parcel that we're talking about at 2 Dolphin Drive that goes along with the property. In terms of the taxes, I really can't address it. That's really a county assessor. But again, based on research that I did, looking at the original property card, there's a notation on there that states that the price is reflected in the following section, block, and lot numbers, and it lists 100 somewhat section, block, and lots. I would imagine that pay the taxes based on that notation that's on the county assessment card.
Okay, but if a title, I'm not really, but if a title search was done by a title company, they would find the deeds with the reference to the 169th in the deed, am I correct?
Correct. Like I said, the more recent deed that was sold shows the principal property, as well as a rider attached to it saying 169th of a share of property known as section, block, and lot.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I have nothing.
My final point is a question. 135 Stillwater and 2 Dolphin. Again, I appreciate everything that you've done to get us to be able to be here right now. It seems to me a lot of people here don't realize the size and scope, especially of 2 Dolphin, the amount of work that was done there, seawalls, and it's a huge amount of money that was outlaid. I doubt very much that the association paid for that. But are they being handled by the town of Oyster Bay Planning and Development? Are they being handled the same way that another resident would be handled? I have a friend of mine who recently was selling his house, and the amount of aggravation that was caused to him for hedges around his property on a corner. I mean, the amount of time that the town of Oyster Bay put to cause him havoc. Is 2 Dolphin and 135 Stillwater, are they being handled the same way that another resident would be handled? Why it appears to me that they're being handled with kid gloves, and I'd like to know why.
If I may, we are treating just like we would any other resident. We'd receive code compliance complaints on both properties. Both properties were brought up as a measure during town board hearings. So in terms of doing the physical outreach, I was asked by Councilman Cascigliano to do it on their behalf, but ultimately the goal with the department is really compliance. And whether it's myself or a code enforcement officer doing it, the ultimate goal is going to be achieved.
Okay.
And I just want to make a point of letting you know that this vacant property also has running water.
I'm sorry.
Running water. There's actually...
Well, Kevin, which vacant property? I'm sorry.
2 Dolphin. Okay, adjacent to Frank Antitommaso's house. There is running water. I'm curious to know who's paying for that running water. But again, the amount of violations there that they're allowed to continue operation is just beyond me, because a friend of mine who has hedges, compared to this, what's going on there, it's absurd that something fishy something's rotten in Oyster Bay.
Tim, go ahead.
Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, that question came up during the meeting. They do have a water bill that is given to them by the...
Who's them?
I'm sorry, the Massapequa Shore Civic Association that owns and operates the beach. They do receive a water bill from the local water district, and there are 2 fixtures of running water that come off that water meter down there.
Okay, and they pay these bills?
They say that they pay their bills, and they do have a bill from the local water district.
Okay, very good. All right, I'm sorry, Councilman.
That's all I have.
What do you have? Well, it's up to the councilman.
Sure, why not?
Hello again, my name is Robert Riff from Massapequa again. I just want to explain that I had an opportunity to review the building files associated with these properties, 135 Stillwater, 1 Dolphin Place. Is that the owner of 1 Dolphin Place, Frank Antitommaso, who is a principal in Sydney Baum, it's the town's premier, or one of the town's premier consulting engineering firms. He filed his application, his permits to build a seawall, and he filed to build a seawall on the adjoining property lot, the two Dolphin Place lot, and he or didn't file building permit applications. It doesn't matter. He filed the necessary applications for his property, but there should have been applications and permits filed for the fixtures that are built on the 2 Dolphin Place property. Okay? So now, in 2008, Mr. Antotomaso did his seawall, did all his work and everything. I've made a complaint in regards to that. And in 2008, Mr. Antotomaso knew that there was no building file, in my opinion, should have known that there was no building file for the adjoining property. Now, I really find it a coincidence that the town of Oyster Bay has been holding that property as if they owned it all this time. It seems like it could have been a quid pro quo to me. Don't pay your tax if you let me build my wall on your property. I'd like to ask Mr. Zeik, have any notices of violation been issued to any of these property owners? Because that is the first step in a code compliance. If the code compliance officer, from what I understand from my experiences, if he responds on a request for investigation and he makes an observation that could be a violation, the first step is to file a notice of violation. This is what happened to me. You get 10 days to come in compliance. If you don't come in compliance, or at least work something out with the code enforcement that you're trying to come in compliance, then you get the summons. So when Mr. McKenna was speaking about kid gloves, this is what he's talking about. Have there any actual notices of violation been issued in this case? Thank you.
The answer is no. Again, it was a verbal notice that I gave once I met with the residents themselves. Typically, a notice of violation is basically putting someone on notice or making them aware that there's a violation. Obviously, I did it in person, and they acknowledged it, and it would be the same course of action. If they're not willing to comply...
I'm sorry, Tim, but which property are you talking about?
I apologize, Supervisor.
Water or?
I think it applies to both.
135 Stillwater Avenue and 2 Dolphin Drive.
Okay.
So they both have 30 days to begin compliance, otherwise the next step would be?
Going to court at that point.
Why do they get a special deal? Everybody from up to
I'm sorry, but Robert Ripp again, Master Speaker. Every other resident in the town gets 10 days to come in compliance. Why are these people getting a special deal? That code enforcement, Mr. Zeik, he's the deputy commissioner. He should know the rules. He went and he gave them like a verbal or oral deal. That's baloney. Notice of violation should have been signed off on right then. They should have 10 days to respond in writing that they're attempting to come in compliance. Then if you want to extend it, that would be fair. But everybody else gets the NOV in 10 days, and that's it. You are treating these people with kid gloves.
The notice of violation, though, seems to be the same thing, whether it's verbal or in writing.
No, sir. It's an official document. It leads to the issuance of a summons.
I understand what you're saying, but I think they've been placed on notice, and correct me if I'm wrong, if they don't comply, they go to court.
I also kept notes in file for each meeting I had just to memorialize them, so we do have it documented that these...
And I think they both also need to go out and get a survey, right?
That's correct.
So
That's fine, but to do it officially...
Maybe you gave them time to get a survey, I guess.
That would be fine, sir, but to do it officially, the first thing that should be done is if the officer, the code enforcement investigator observes a violation, it's the issuance of a notice of violation.
I understand what you're saying.
Especially in this case.
They've also both been brought to town hall to deal with their, situation, so it's pretty official.
Okay, thank you.
We'll keep on top of it.
No, I know you are, and I really appreciate it. I know that you're doing everything in your power, sir. I appreciate it immensely. Thank you very much.
All right, in light of what I heard a lot of, in my opinion, I think, maybe, so I'm going to ask the councilman to continue your pursuit.
We'll keep working on it.
Yeah, keep working on it, and you'll update the board accordingly. There's a lot of conjecture and speculation here, and one way or the other, I think you need to resolve all of these issues. I'm not quite sure what all the issues are, but I would assume that you have them in your head, and you'll continue to work with Mr. Zeik to get us answers. Again, I'm not sure what the questions are, but I'll leave that up to you since you seem to have a handle on it. All right, very good. Mr. Muscarello will take a motion.
Supervisor, I'll make a motion that this town board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing...
Son of Village of Bayville. Doug, I'm sorry. Hold it.
I'm ready.
I forgot what I wanted to say. I have a quality of life thing that I think you're going to love, because I know that you like quality of life issues.
Do I?
Prior to PSC&G taking over the electric service, we had a various array of electric companies in LIPA and Ilco and all these different things. And part of the cost would be a car would hit a pole, the pole would break, the electric company would come out, put a new pole, and cut the service down to what they call the third-party providers. The third-party providers are not good at providing third-party service when it comes to changing those broken poles.
Got it.
They even have a term for it. They call it double wood, okay? Which if you can't fix something, I guess you just make up a name for it. Why I'm here right now is I'm observing in Laddingtown and also in Glen Cove, which is not your area. They're putting in, PSE&G is doing a very good job. They're hardening the system. They're putting in these big poles. They're changing the three-phase service. But they're cutting the old poles down, and I have a feeling that they don't want the third-party providers on these new poles. Now, I don't know that because I don't have an office anymore to meet with these people and make the calls. So I'm asking if your office could do it through the town attorney's office, find out what's going on with these people, and I'm going to reach out to Mayor Spinello in Glen Cove and to find out exactly what the future holds, because when they do the franchise agreement, they want a level playing field. Well, we want one too. If they're going to have two poles, they should pay for two poles. You know, my opinion. I mean, I'd
Still on this one, but I would like you to,
I'll give you my information, and I would like to know, you know, and if there's any involvement,
you can
because
be at the meeting.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd
That's
like
all.
that.
I just want to leave you with that.
Perfect.
Have a nice day.
God, you too, Doug. Take care. All right, Mr. Muscarella, I'm sorry I stole your thunder.
All right. Supervisor, I make a motion that this town board go into executive session for the purpose of...
So, see you later.
Did you get that? Here, I'll leave these with you so you can't throw that out for you. Okay. We got it.
Hey, Bob, quiet. Picture color. Back.